It's nice that we can joke about this. Hi, Will Townsend. How are you?
Hey, Matt, I'm good. Fresh back from Boston, off the plane.
Oh, we have a few things to talk about there.
We do.
Welcome, Will, to the 50th episode of our Data Center Podcast. Missing from the equation is the how do we say that? How do we refer to Paul?
Prestigious elder statesman. Yeah.
The King Paul Smith Goodson. So Paul went in for an oil change a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure he's fine. But I think he may have had to go in for extended work for this
Right.
podcast. He got to miss again, and he's
We
getting
wish
his
him
tires
well.
rotated. But
Yeah.
we wish you well, Paul. We wish you were with us, but that's okay. Episode 50, kind of a special. Before we get going, I know you want to hit on kind of today and the significance of today. Will, do you want to kind of hit on that before we get
Yeah. So yeah, it's 9/11, obviously. Looking back 24 years ago, I remember I was working for Compaq and I was in my office when we got the news, and just still a shock, right? And I thought it'd be appropriate, Matt, if you and I sort of recognized, today's significance and all the lives that were lost 24 years ago in 9/11. So, my thoughts, my prayers to any families and people out there that were affected by that. And I'll just say, let's never forget.
Never forget. Speaking of never forgetting, I remember the moment it broke on the news. Strangely enough, one of the flights that originated out of Boston, we were on that flight about 2 weeks prior. My oldest son had just been born. He was about 10 weeks old, and we're going out to Seattle. And we went to LA and then up to Seattle from LA. And that morning, my son and I, 10 weeks old, sitting down watching Good Morning America, and couldn't believe what I was watching. It was like absolutely tragic. And you're right. The impact it had on this country, I hope to God we never forget. And it kind of guides us to be more unified and less divided than we are. So I'm with you.
Yeah. Cool.
With you. All right. So episode 50, Data Center Podcast. If you are one of our normies who follows us, you know this. One of our stalkers. You know the deal. Don't take anything we say as investment advice. If you do, shame on you. We talk for entertainment purposes only, and we have fun with some of our banter and some of our insights. But these are just two nerds that are sharing ideas and talking through things. We are in no way, shape, or form financial advisors, nor do we play them on TV or YouTube. That said, you just got back from Boston, right? My hometown, my favorite city. Where in Boston were you staying? Can I ask?
I was in the Seaport area at the fabulous West End, spending time with Cisco and Splunk at .com.
The West End is nice. Seaport's nice. People don't know that about 15 years ago, the Seaport was disgusting. The Seaport.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's been sort of gentrified over the years, right?
Yeah, and it has no soul. It's tough. I mean, when the rest of your city is 300 years old and you've been built up in the last 10 years, it's hard to kind of stitch that in, right?
Yeah.
So that's where all the trust fund babies or the folks that work at Lilly and some of the other biotech companies around there, they live, where the rest of the people live in the cool parts of the city. But I'm glad you went, and glad that you didn't catch up with my friends Buck or Sully or Obi or any of my friends that could have caused you harm when you were talking trash to me online the other day.
Yeah, complaining about Logan and the highly inefficient TSA, security. And the one thing about Logan, it's so funny. Like, I fly American, and I know you do too as well.
Yeah.
When you get into the queue, so there's no priority, but they make you pull your license out before you even get in queue. And they get really upset if you don't have it right when you walk up and you're fumbling for your identification, your passport, your license or whatever. So it's like,
I think that
You
might
need to
be
kind of
you.
work on that. Yeah.
I think that might be a Will Townsend problem. I never have that problem ever. And I fly through TSA. I
Okay.
think you got that look. You got that I can't swear on YouTube. You got that let's screw with him look. There's some
Right.
townie that's just waiting to give you a hard time as they see you walking up. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh, that's funny. Well, I'm sorry that you did not have a good experience. One last thing on Seaport District. A lot of
Yeah.
folks don't know that that is actually part of what's known as people known it as call it Southie, which is South Boston,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the infamous gangster Whitey Bulger. That was his stomping grounds back in the day.
Interesting.
Anybody's watched the movie Black Mass, and there's a shootout happening between cars that
Hmm.
happened in what is now known as the Seaport District. So,
Interesting.
yeah. Anyway, and now it's full of yuppies. All right, let's move on. We got a lot to talk about. Well,
We do.
Splunk, HPE and Oracle earnings, Intel, NVIDIA, lots of good stuff. We got to talk about Texas football and how it was so wrong after going into
Oh
one.
my God.
But
Well.
we'll get on that,
We
all
bounced
of
back.
that.
Yeah.
You definitely bounce back against a mediocre team. All right,
Yeah.
so here we go. You want to get Splunky with it? Is that what I'm hearing?
I want to get Splunky with it. I want to get jiggy with it. Because Paul's not with us, I wanted a sizzly headline on this. So
I like it.
yeah, cool. I'm glad you like it. So this was my first full .conf. Let me just kind of start at a very, very high level. I love the energy. So if you don't know this, they have a mascot, and I'm wearing a Splunk ball cap. Let me tell you, the swag that they give out is amazing. They gave away like these super nice hoodies, and so this is the Splunk mascot. This is Buttercup. And the highlight of my second day was I got a selfie with Buttercup. Buttercup was on stage for the first day at the end of GT Patel's keynote, and I'll go into a little more detail on that in a minute. But he participated in an award ceremony. So when I got to meet Buttercup, the next day, I had to give him a high five and just tell Buttercup, "You killed it on stage."
Taken out of context, this all sounds a little weird.
It does.
Yes, it does.
But it sort of underpins the culture. So the developer community is amazing. The developers that sort of earn their stripes, they wear these fezzes, and they have all these pens in the fezzes, and I just found that super interesting. And one of the things that G2 Patel spoke to in it was an evening keynote to kick off the first day was the culture. How important that culture is, and how important it is for Cisco to help continue to foster that culture. And what I hope happens too, because Cisco, we spend a lot of time with Cisco, Matt. Cisco is a very conservative company. And so it'd be interesting to see if the Splunk culture can be sort of infused in Cisco. And here's why I think that's important, because Cisco is driving towards a platform strategy. And you could think of Splunk as sort of the glue that's going to kind of bring that together. And it was fun. It was interesting, not funny. It was interesting. At the end of the event, I had some time with Claire Hawken, who's the CMO for Splunk. And she asked me a really interesting question. She said, "Hey, Will, where do you think Cisco will be just sort of from a market perception perspective in 5 years?" And I go, wow, that's hard to predict, but where the company is headed, from my perspective, with Splunk and its other acquisitions and its organic roadmap development, and everything that you and I saw at Cisco Live from an announcement payload perspective is, I believe, Cisco has been known as a network solution provider, right? But I believe 5 years from now, the company could transform itself and be considered an IT infrastructure provider. So, much more broadly as they continue to double down on security and observability and that sort of thing. So, but from my perspective, there were several announcements at .conf. The two that I found, most notable, one is something called Cisco Data Fabric. And so what Cisco is doing, it's leveraging the Splunk architecture to deliver a fabric that it combines a few existing capabilities and a new capability. The new capability is the ability for enterprises to actually take meaningful insights out of machine data. And if you think about machine data, it comes from lots of different sources. It can come from IoT environments. It can come from sensors. It can come from a number of different things. It's highly unstructured. I mean, it's all over the map. And you could argue that many customers aren't even leveraging structured data very effectively. And there are companies like Cisco and HPE and others that are helping to address that. But I really like that because it's going to provide sort of another level of telemetry, another level of insights to drive improvements in network assurance and security and just general network observability. So that was one big announcement. The other was the Splunk's announcement that they are going to take what Cisco launched at Cisco Live AI Canvas, which is a generative single pane of glass console that generates widgets sort of generatively automatically. So that's going to be I think it's alpha now. GA will be sometime next year. But what, Matt, I really like about those two announcements is it demonstrates sort of the bilateral development that's going on between Cisco and Splunk. So, Cisco's bringing some goodness into Splunk from a dashboard, perspective. And honestly, I've written about AI Canvas. I posted a Forbes article after Live, and I likened it to the Cisco tip of the spear. And their competitors are taking note. As I spend time, with Cisco's competitors as well, they're taking note. And I asked the team, where did this come from? Because the UI is very different from a Cisco perspective, and so they brought in some new folks. And there's actually a separate organization that actually worked on AI Canvas. So, but anyway, at a very, very high level, I like what's happening very, very quickly. It's been almost 2 years now since the acquisition. And from my perspective, when you look at what Cisco's been investing in from not only an AI-enabled networking perspective, but all the security stuff around things like Hypershield and AI defense and that sort of thing, with a concrete focus on runtime, which is really, really important for AI. And then when you look at sort of the data layer and what Splunk is doing there, I mean, the potential really kind of differentiates Cisco from its competitors from my perspective. But I'd love to get your take on all of that. I know you didn't attend, but what do you think about all that?
Yeah, they don't like me as much, and I didn't kiss up to Buttercup, so that's my problem.
Yeah.
A couple things. First, it's interesting that Splunk chose to have, or Cisco Splunk chose to have this in Boston, where its arguably its largest competitor, Dynatrace, is based.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of interesting. It's funny, kind of the question of where are they 5 years from now or 10 years from now, and how they leverage Splunk. Cisco, when I remember the acquisition, you and I wrote, not competing, but we both wrote pieces for Forbes.
Yeah.
And you went down the security and networking route, kind of how Splunk helps. And I went down the path of talking about how Splunk can really help Cisco in the infrastructure management space. Splunk's, I don't know why, but it feels to me like one of their best kept secrets is the amount of telemetry they capture across infrastructure. So I don't mean forget, but not just network management, but server uptime, all of those devices and historians that support those devices out on the industrial edge, everything across the environment. Splunk is capturing so much data, and it can do so much for Cisco. And I think about a product like Intersight, and what you can do with Intersight from a kind of managing the enterprise and the value that Splunk can bring to that. And there's this merge, I think, or this convergence where you take the design principles of AI Canvas, you take the functionality of Intersight and the capabilities and all that data that's being fed in from Splunk and
Mhm.
other sources. And there is so much that you can do.
Yeah.
And because I don't think 5 years from now, you want to be labeled as a networking company
Yeah.
or a security company. And I don't mean that as a negative. I
Yeah.
mean it. What I mean is the world is bigger then, right?
Yeah.
And the world is racing toward this kind of managing your data estate. So when you talk about kind of the data fabric, I think that's a kind of what they're doing. To me, that feeds into, I think, where they need to take this Splunk Cisco marriage and really kind of make it deliver or maximize the potential of it. So I think
Yeah.
it's the announcement's great. I
Yeah.
think what they're doing is great, and I think the potential is great. Of course, it's always about executing, and you're right. It's an interesting clash of cultures. You got the
Mhm.
nerdy startup-y thing going on with Splunk, and I was part
Yeah.
of those startups. I love them. And then you've
Yeah.
got the really well-established, kind of IBM-ish kind of, environment with Cisco, which is also great. They both have real strong, there are strengths in both of those. And when you bring them together and you leverage them appropriately, it's
It's
amazing
pretty
what they
interesting.
can do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll finish with, I spent some time on the trade show floor, and we got the, requisite demo tour, and I was really impressed. There was one tour where it was a electric guitar sort
Mhm.
of inspection and final, quality assurance. They were using computer vision. They were using robotics. They were using Splunk to weave it all together, and it was quite impressive. And then the other demo was around using, combining the two companies' capabilities to analyze NFL stats. And so what they did was they built, and it wasn't a large language model, but they built a bespoke model that took telemetry from DraftKings and from another source that's typically a licensed source, and I'm forgetting what the source was, but anyway, all of this combined was able to look, for fantasy football in the NFL, was able
Yeah.
to evaluate players, statistics, injury data, and all of that, and then provide recommendations on who they think the best players were going to be to maximize the most number of points. And what the
Mhm.
team told me was that they were actually 20% more accurate than, and I don't want to say it, I don't know if it was
Yeah.
CBS or
Yeah.
whoever, but 20% more accurate than sort of the leading, sort of, analysis that's
Wow.
existed. So like, man, think about the monetization opportunity on and in the applicability for that for gambling and
Yeah.
other applications as well. So it kind of blew my mind, and I really felt that the Splunk team did a fantastic job. And what was also really cool, there were plenty of Cisco people and plenty of
Yeah.
Splunk people all over the show floor. So I really thought that was pretty cool.
So are you promoting gambling? I just want to throw that out there. Is that
I
what
do not promote gambling. I'm a terrible gambler, and but I do put $100 down on my Longhorns every year to win
that's
the Natty. And I haven't collected in 20 years, but maybe I'll collect this year. We'll see.
Did you play Powerball last week when it was 1.8 billion or whatever it was?
No, but I heard a rumor that someone in Texas won it, right? A college student, I thought was the rumor.
Maybe. I'll tell you what, dude. I went and played 2 tickets because you have to, right? What's $4,
Yeah,
right?
right.
You just have to do it. And I went to bed and I figured out the trust funds I was going to establish for my kids.
For me
The
too, right? Yeah.
oh yeah, the gifts I was going to give to close friends. I had it all mapped out in my head. I was certain I was going to win. And strangely enough, I woke up on Sunday and it was like, oh, I didn't win. I was like really shocked. I am so stupid sometimes. Anyway,
Well,
all right.
maybe Splunk can help you out, Cisco and
I
Splunk.
hope so, man. Sorry for the detour there. All right. So we're moving on. I call it more earnings. I think on our last podcast we had been talking about earnings.
Hey Matt,
Earnings.
you should have spelled more Moor. That would have been really
Oh, I can't just say. Oh, that's a clever little play on words, huh? I'll make a note of that for next time. There we go.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
All right. So I wanted to cover a couple of earnings. I'm going to go into more detail on one than the other, but both very strong. So, HPE announced last week, Oracle announced this week, and
Mhm.
both were super positive. So on the HPE side, up across the board, server revenue hit a record high, most ever. And what was encouraging about that was it was not all due to AI.
Yeah.
So I think we were talking on the last podcast about how AI has been draining the margins out of a lot of
Mhm.
these OEMs' earnings. HPE actually rebounded. They're starting to see their server margins return to historical norms, which is good. And I think they're actually forecasting that their AI business is going to be down a little bit over the remainder of the year, but that traditional enterprise is kind of up and to the right. Really
Yeah.
great. Juniper contributed 1 month and killed it on the networking side.
From a top line perspective, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 54% growth, I think, year over year
Yeah.
on that. And then hybrid cloud grew. Electra MP storage, which is part of hybrid cloud, triple-digit growth. Granted, it's still relatively new, but it's always encouraging to see that.
Yeah.
Don't have a lot of insights on their VM Essentials work. Other than I know there are some proof of concepts going on, but I don't think they have any named customers yet.
Mhm.
But good overall growth from HP. It was encouraging to see, especially after, a down quarter back earlier in the year and kind of, coming up through the summer. So very good to see. And then Oracle, I'm going to spend a little bit more on Oracle.
Oh my
So
God.
I'm
Like I saw the stock spike and I'm like, what the hell is going on? So what's going
Yeah,
on?
stock was up 35%, and not 35% from like $10 a share,
Right.
35% from like $200 a share.
Right.
Absolutely crazy. Hey, you know what? The old guys still got it. I've
He's
been
gonna
using
live forever, by the way. He's gonna live forever. Ellison, yeah.
Oh, he is. Yeah. Yeah. I am convinced he's doing something unearthly to maintain his youth. It's fantastic to see. But it's nice to see these legacy companies that have been around forever
Yeah.
find ways to reinvent themselves, and not through like slick ways, but like really just get back to the basics
Meat and
and look
potato.
how you can add
Yeah.
value, right?
Yeah.
OCI killing
OCI.
it,
Yeah.
Oracle database killing it. What's interesting is OCI, when they launched OCI originally, I forget what the year was, but OCI, call it 1.0, it was a flop. It was a rush to the cloud market. It was not the infrastructure architecture and deployment was not was not built to scale, was not built to meet the needs of customers. And I love this kind of startup-ish way they approach it. Failed fast, scrapped it, started from scratch.
Mhm.
OCI 2.0 comes out, cloud native from the ground up, from the silicon all the way up, and they've been killing it ever since on the OCI side.
Yeah.
Database. I've been using Oracle Database since version 8.0. They're at 23 now.
Right.
I was using it back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah, I love PL SQL. I love SQL Plus. But it was a enterprise data management platform for a time and a place. And what happens? NoSQL comes around, cloud comes around, AI comes around, new programming models come around, unstructured data rules the world. What does Oracle do? They just expand the capability. I don't want to call it re-architect,
Yeah.
but they take Oracle database and they turn it into a platform that can support virtually everything. 23 AI in the autonomous database. No SQL, no problem. Unstructured data, SQL, not a problem. JSON, not a problem. SQL, not a problem. AI, not a problem. They understand the needs of those enterprise customers and what they're doing with AI, and they take their solutions and they evolve them to meet the needs of the customers where they are. And what does it lead to? Killing it, right? I mean, their numbers were absolutely crazy. Their remaining performance obligations on cloud up 359. This is not a typo. 359%. They're 455 billion RPO. They're going to be over half a trillion by the end of the year. They signed OpenAI to a $300 billion partnership.
Yeah.
Total revenue is at 14.9 billion, up 12%. That's great. Cloud infrastructure up 55% year over year. They're anticipating that's at, I think it was at 3.3 billion for the quarter. The subsequent quarters they're looking at, or years they're looking at fiscal 2026 is going to be 18 billion. Year after that, 32 billion. Year after that, 73 billion. Year after that, 114 billion. Year after that, 144 billion they're anticipating in revenue.
Wow.
They are absolutely killing it. One last thing, they not only did they build a great cloud infrastructure, they approached the cloud differently than everybody else. Where Azure builds its own, its own kind of bespoke stack, AWS, Google, and Oracle does to some degree as well.
Yeah.
They meet their customers where they are. They take Oracle database in their cloud service and they run it as native services inside of Azure. So you've got OCI running inside of Azure, inside of AWS, inside of Google. So it's standing up Oracle database as a native AWS service, as a native or instance, as a native Azure service, as a native Google service, and they are killing it there. That service that they stood up over the last couple of years is up over 1,500% year over year.
Wow.
And it's only going to grow. These guys are killing it. They are the future of where the cloud is going. Really happy to say it. Sorry, I talked really long.
No, that's all great stuff. That is great insight. Because I was speaking with a few other analysts when I was in Boston about the craziness here. Is part of this also that when you compare OCI to the other three large hyperscalers, I mean, their revenue, their top line is considerably less, obviously, right? Than Google and AWS and Azure. Yeah. So that probably constitutes, sort of part of the wow factor on the improvement. But you made a really good point about the flexibility of running natively within those other clouds as well, because that means there's no compromise. And so that flexibility basically provides them an opportunity to drive top line revenue through the roof, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. This is what's so interesting, right? It's like, or AWS is obviously the king of cloud, right?
Yeah.
And it's a great cloud. It's a great cloud provider. And it's a competitor to Oracle. But what does Oracle do? They say, you're our competitor, but a lot of your customers use Oracle database. Virtually every enterprise uses Oracle database, right?
Yeah, who doesn't?
For those customers to connect their data that's in Oracle database to your services natively. Could be Bedrock, for say Bedrock for AI. Could be some analytics tools. Could be a BI tool. Let's put our infrastructure natively into your cloud data center, and let's have it sit on your backbone and give the best possible connectivity, so that our Oracle customers that have Oracle databases on-prem can now move their stuff up into Oracle database in AWS, run it natively, and have the best possible performance. It's silly, but it's almost like mind-blowing to think that you have a cloud running in a cloud. It is native multi-cloud capabilities. No other cloud provider is doing it. And it's that kind of thinking that I think is going to set a pace in a trend within the cloud community. And it's going to, the only other thing I'd say on that is they are much smaller, but what they're doing is they're winning where data is important, right? Uber, OpenAI, the list of cloud or of cloud native companies using Oracle is OCI is long and distinguished. These cloud native companies. That's important because that's where the market is moving to. So while they're smaller, the growth is far outpacing everybody else, and they're going to catch up. They ain't slowing down anytime soon. So
Good
hats
stuff.
off to Mr. Ellison and company, and my buddy Steve Zavanek over there. Wu-Tang says, congratulations, and great stuff. So let's go on. You have an interesting one that is going to be a fun conversation, and that is kind of you call it the Intel data center reset. What are you talking about here, Will?
I'm stealing a headline from my buddy Shane Snyder. He's a journalist that I've gotten to know over the years. He writes for Data Center Knowledge, and he freelances, with other publications. But big management shakeup this week as well, right? And so there's a new person that's going to run data center for Lip-Bu-Tan, an ARM exec. Do you know who this individual is? Because you follow ARM pretty closely, right?
Yeah, I'll get into it. Yeah, I'll let you finish.
Yeah. So new executive to run data center, and also a longtime employee who our illustrious leader, Patrick Moorhead knows quite well, Michelle Holthus, 30-year employee. She's moving on as well, and there were 2 other appointments, but nothing, specifically that's, centered in my coverage areas for networking security. But I thought it'd be an interesting topic because I know you've got a lot of depth here and you follow Intel quite closely because you manage the compute practice for our firm. I just teed it up. So I'm going to let you wow everyone with your brilliance and your intelligence.
There ain't no wowing over here. I promise you that. I was actually, I talked to Shane about that piece he put out on the shakeup. Okay. And he wrote a great piece on it.
He really did.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I'm going to step back and say there are a lot of arrows being shot at Intel, and there are a lot of arrows being shot at Lip-Bu-Tan, the new CEO at Intel. Just as when Pat Gelsinger first joined, people were taking shots at him when he was trying to implement his strategy. When I was at AMD and we were at our lowest, Dr. Lisa Su was appointed CEO. She was the COO at the time. And I love her. I admire her. I've supported some stuff for her in the past, and really I was a big fan of hers. Anyway, she came in as the CEO and she implemented a radical new culture within AMD focused on execution with no excuse. It ruffled a lot of feathers. People thought AMD was crazy. People within were very unhappy. That culture change happens, and 8 years later, or 9 years later, I guess 10 years later, you see where AMD is now under her leadership.
Yeah.
The same deference has to be given to Lip-Bu-Tan. People are looking at, like, on the data center side, the gentleman he hired, Kevork Kachichian from ARM, he's the one who kind of transformed ARM into kind of delivering, kind of solution-focused full stack solutions. He was not a data center guy.
Okay.
But there's speculation that that Lip-Bu-Tan is trying to turn Intel into ARM, and what ARM did with Neoverse. That's BS. I think what Lip-Bu is doing is he's saying, I had some really great folks in place, like MJ, great person, right?
Yeah.
But I am in charge. I need my team with my people around that are to execute my strategy. Right. This is not about kind of importing models from other companies. This is about hiring a trusted team that is going to help him drive his strategy forward. That's what I'm doing. There's all kinds of, I was surprised. It's like, oh yeah, they're gonna take Xeon and turn it into Neoverse, and they're gonna do this and that.
Yeah.
And they're not. They did announce some custom silicon work that they're going to do on the Xeon side. But he is really he's hiring people, and he's hiring what he thinks is the right people. And I think we should all sit back and let him execute.
Give him some time. Yeah, give him some time, right?
Yeah, and let him succeed or fail based on that. But I guess, that's what we do as analysts. That's what we do as pundits. And that's what we do as kind of market watchers as we,
Yeah.
we opine. But
Mhm.
really, it's a matter of sitting back and watching and seeing what he does. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think, we were talking about culture early with Splunk and Cisco, and there needs to be a culture shift, I believe, with Intel. I mean, Intel's been around forever, and they've hit some bumps in the path. We could go on about Foundry, for the next hour, but we won't. But that I think your analysis is spot on. He needs to bring in a new team that is, not going to be hesitant to do things differently, right? And I love what you described. I mean, you worked at AMD, right? So you know it, very, very well. That's what Dr. Lisa Su did as well. And to your point, look where AMD is now. So yeah, couldn't agree more.
It's funny you kind of say that, and you actually said it better than I did. And it's a lot of times new CEOs come in or new executive leadership comes in and things don't change. And you're like, well, why didn't things change? Right. I mean, I brought in this CEO and the company's still having the same struggles.
Yeah.
It's because the oftentimes what has to happen to make a company successful is not necessarily you need a new CEO with a new name and a new vision. You need to change things at where the work happens, right?
Yeah.
And I will be the first one at AMD. When you looked at mid-level management, that was the problem. That was the inertia, and it had to be shaken up. And she was the agent of change, and she put in her people that executed that agent of change and forced it down through that. Where kind of the deep sea, if you will, was right. So. Yeah. Anyway.
And I think masterfully, there have been some key acquisitions that AMD has made over the years, like Pensando.
Yeah.
A company, started, partly by John Chambers, who's a legend, former Cisco CEO. And there've been, and I think we're on episode 50. I think, over the course of our doing this podcast, you've talked about, other key acquisitions. So it's, it's putting the right people in place. It's changing the culture a little bit. And sometimes it's key acquisitions that shorten, time to market.
Sure.
Certainly Cisco has done that pretty effectively. HPE has done that pretty effectively. So yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Gonna be fun to watch. I'll be up at an Intel event in about 2 weeks, and I'll be sure to give you my thoughts on it on our next podcast.
Yeah. Is that Innovate, or what event is that?
No. I think it's what used to be Innovate. So Vision is in the spring. I think this is called like ITT or something like that. It's a new name, but it's the same kind of
format.
Yeah. Actually, I think it's Innovate. I think was kind of a different spin of IDF, and this is kind of further refining that. So yeah,
cool.
It'll be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Last topic. Drum roll, please. Who are we going to talk about? Oh my gosh.
NVIDIA? Are you kidding? Are we talking about NVIDIA?
So I'm going to spend less time on the actual announcement and more time on just NVIDIA and as kind of in total, if you will. So NVIDIA announced the other day. So MLPerf numbers come out. If anybody's wondering what MLPerf is, it's an AI benchmarking that publishes really every 3 months. They have a new. They do a training benchmark and they do an inference benchmark, and they're both spaced 6 months apart. So if I did my first training benchmark in January, then my second is in June or July, and then so on and so forth, right? And inference is spread out on the other cycle 6 months apart. So they just released MLPerf 5.1, Inference 5.1. And to nobody's surprise, NVIDIA killed it on the inferencing side with Blackwell and Blackwell Ultra. Just blew the numbers off the door. AMD had a strong showing as well. But, NVIDIA just kind of blew everybody away. With that said, on the same day that those numbers come out, NVIDIA announces the release of what it's calling Rubin CPX, which is a large context inferencing accelerator. I'm going to get to this in a second. So it's important for folks that are like watching, all those 12,000 people that are watching us right now, and you know it's 12,000. For all those people watching, it's you got to remember where training is a little bit more kind of fixed in function. You kind of the way you train, and a large language model is the way you train a large language model. You have to tweak it, but training is training. Inference is wide open. Number one, it's got so many different deployment scenarios and use cases that it's important to think about the different ways that you're going to have to deliver results, and how you deliver them and where you deliver them to, which means data locality, type of ASIC, so on and so forth is all super important.
Yeah.
That's point one. Point two is it's a wide open market. There are so many players in the inference space because you don't have a dependency on CUDA. You don't have a dependency on ROC.
You can use general purpose x86, right? In a lot of instances, right? Yeah.
There are so many. It's such a wide open market. So when you look at training, you've got Intel, or you've got NVIDIA, AMD, Cerebras, I guess you can throw in there. And Intel's got Gaudi, but that really doesn't compete. When it comes to inference, you've got dozens, if not hundreds, of providers out there. Autos are different than IoT. IoT is different than data center. One type of data center is different than the next type of data center. So one of the things that companies do is they inference from the cloud, right? And there's a lot that goes on. So companies like AWS, Azure, Google have developed their own inferencing ASICs, Trainium, Maya, TPU it's codenamed Ironwood from Google. And companies like Marvell and Broadcom build silicon that helps training at scale, and training with, that requires a lot of context to be executed. Large context windows where you have millions of tokens instead of thousands or hundreds of tokens, right? And they've owned those markets. That's where a Trainium plays. That's where a Maya plays. That's where a TPU plays. And that's been largely untouched by traditional GPUs because Rubin or Blackwell, Rubin's the next generation GPU for NVIDIA. Those GPUs don't typically support that large of a context window.
Okay.
So what does NVIDIA do? They're like, you know what? There's an opportunity for us in this space. So maybe we take a bunch of what they call CUDA cores. Maybe we take a bunch of CUDA cores and we put them on an ASIC and we run that alongside Rubin so that, the traditional GPU, so we can support these larger CUDA, these larger context windows. And by the way, how about if we branch off inference to, hey, you have to set context for what's being asked, and then you have to serve it up, right? Then you have to generate your response. What if we parallelize these? So we take all of the context setting off of Rubin and just let it inference and put it over here so that this thing can fly. That's what they did with.
So it's an offload scenario, right?
Yeah, it's offloading the context setting in large context setting of inference. Yeah.
Okay.
So they go out and this is where NVIDIA is just it's amazing to me, is while its competition is still trying to catch up to its last generation, it is 1, 2, and 3 steps ahead, and kind of moving the needle forward. And it's also to some degree now, more competitive with, the custom ASICs that are being developed by and for the CSPs. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays. Great part. It's going to do very well in the large enterprise. especially when you look at the NVIDIA software stack. It's going to do very well in the hyperscalers. I'm going to be curious to see how a Marvell, a Broadcom, and a Qualcomm and some of these other custom silicon houses, how they respond to what our friends at NVIDIA are doing. So anyway, I'll shut up and let you weigh in.
No, super impressive. I think, and we've talked about this before as well. I think what's also allowing NVIDIA to hit the gas and just continue to be, to your point, 2 to 3 steps ahead of the competition is just the amount of money that Jensen is dumping in to development. I mean, didn't you share on one pod that they're running 3 development teams and sort of in parallel to keep this pace going, which is unbelievable. And if you think about it, it's sort of like the rich get richer, right? Because they're generating all this revenue, and NVIDIA has had a demonstrated track record of putting billions of dollars into development and waiting for a return. I mean, I think, wasn't that CUDA? Like, he invested in, CUDA for 7 to 10 years before it was even really revenue and profit accretive.
More than that, yeah. And he went out and he was so smart about it. He seeded all the universities. Every kid going through a computer science program was learning to use and to code in CUDA. And while companies were off doing other things, he was focused on capturing that next generation of developer for CUDA, and he locked them in. It was GPU programming in the GPU world is far more complex and more challenging than if you're programming in the CPU world. And he understood that, and he put maximum effort behind it, and it paid off. And you're right. There are 2 types of companies. There are companies who gain an advantage in the market, and they squeeze every penny they can out of it and leverage it for as long as they can. And then there are companies who never get comfortable with leading in the market, and they continue to innovate. And that's NVIDIA. They're never comfortable leading in the industry, and they play more like the challenger and less like the market leader. The way they operate, and pour more money into development, R&D than virtually everybody out there. So hats off to them. But it's going to be fun to watch.
It is, Well, great, buddy. It's been another great podcast, and we're being very efficient with our time here since it's just the 2 of us again.
Yeah. Hey, real quickly, because I feel like a fool, I predicted, shifting topics, I predicted UT was going to blow Ohio State out, and they ended up losing. I feel like a fool. I know your heart was broken.
Yeah.
What's going on? Then they come back and they kill a mediocre San Jose State team. What's going on there?
So my analysis, I mean, everyone wants to point the finger at Arch Manning. It was his first, start, right? So, I mean, he's been at Texas for 2 years. He's theoretically going to play 2 years if he doesn't decide to go to the NFL early, and that's sort of the indication. So I think it's jitters, and I read a lot of articles about it. And they were talking about, quarterbacks like, Burrow. His debut in college was awful. And then, there were other, like Cam Newton, and there were other quarterbacks. So, but at the end of the day, we committed way too many penalties. There was actually one drive where our defense got called for 2 penalties in a row. It sustained that drive. And that was the drive that allowed Ohio State to score, their second touchdown. And then I'm also going to be a little critical of Sark. So I really thought that his offensive play calling, because he is the offensive coach, was very conservative. It was abnormally conservative for him, because he's a guy that likes to do misdirection and that sort of thing. I counted 1 misdirection offensive play that was called. So I think, I think it was a conservatively called game. We had, I think, 12 penalties. We were on the 1-inch line on 4th down, and we run it up the middle. And so we got to be better in the red zone. But I'm confident. And I think, I was at the home opener where, that score against, who did we play? San Jose State. It's not really indicative. So it wasn't a blowout. We have some things to work on, after that game as well. But Arch, he showed his running ability, running for a very long touchdown, which was really exciting. Actually, in my corner of the end zone where I have my season tickets. So
it's going to be fun to watch. And he was also playing an Ohio State team that has a very good defensive coordinator in the pros, Matt Patricia, who really engineered the Patriots 2018 team that was just a shutdown defense. He's not a good head coach, but he's very good at defense. He's playing a very tough team for his first game. So who do they play this week?
Defending national champions, right? So we play UTEP, so University of Texas at El Paso. Okay. So our home schedule is pretty cupcake this year. We've got Arkansas, so the Hogs will be interesting at home, and we have A&M. So we've renewed that rivalry now that we've joined the SEC. Those will be two really, really fun home games for me to go to. But we've got a pretty cupcake, home schedule. So we got to win on the road, from my perspective, to be back in the playoffs for a third year in a row. So
because even those two, Arkansas and A&M, they're going to be more fun, but they're really not competitive programs. Kind of not compared to UT and kind of like
sure.
I don't think Arkansas is even ranked and. I'd like to see them do well, man. I hope it plays out for you. And do you have any travel coming up?
I do. So in about a week, I'll have a week at home, and then I'll be headed over to London, and I'll be conducting some panel moderation sessions at Connected Britain. So I've shared the kind of the information and the links on my social media handles. So if you can't be there in person, I believe they're doing some remote, type stuff as well. But I do that every year. This will be I think the 6th or 7th year in a row where I do that. So I spend the week in London and work remotely, and then spend time at Connected Britain. So you mentioned you're going to an Intel event, right? Anything after Intel?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The next couple of months are crazy. After Intel, I've got IBM Tech Exchange. Then
I'll be at Tech Exchange as well with you.
Orlando. Yeah. And then Oracle Cloud World the week after that, and then getting a Lenovo event the week after that, and I have another event after that. I forget what it is, and then we have Cisco Analyst Summit, and then we have Supercomputing and KubeCon. So lots going on. Yeah, it takes us on the road through Thanksgiving effectively.
Yeah, me too. I won't even go through my list in October. It's and I've got some instances I've got 2 days in between trips. So have a very understanding and supportive wife. So thank you, Megan, for being so supportive.
Oh, look at you being sweet. Anyway, all right. So listen, great conversation. To our 42,000 viewers right now around the globe. Thanks for listening in. As we talk about at the beginning, we'll close with. Please don't take anything we say as financial advice or trading advice. I hate that we have to say this, but it's critical. And please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Even if you don't still like and subscribe. I'll mail you a $1 bill to pay you for it. But thanks for listening in. I guess we'll see you in a couple of weeks, and we'll have a great conversation.
Yeah, another great conversation, Matt.
Yeah, talk soon.
Talk soon.